Hey everybody, I'm Corey Moen. I'm a staff brand designer on our web team at Webflow. So our team builds and maintains most of the marketing end of Webflow.com in Webflow, very meta. And if you're not familiar, Webflow is a visual development platform in the no-code space that allows you to, leverage the concepts of HTML and CSS in a visual canvas and build quite literally anything on the front end, in my opinion. And it pairs very well with other tools like Memberstack to extend the functionality beyond even what Webflow offers out of the box. I discovered Memberstack in the early days of Memberstack, just as this craving of how can we add authentication on top of Webflow sites in a pretty easy and flexible and powerful way. Memberstack was amazing right out the gate. On the team at Webflow, every year we have this annual conference that is called Webflow Conf. And traditionally, we've always used a very typical events management platform or software that deals with all the registration forms and payments and authenticating and gating content, knowing that our own tool was very powerful and could connect with other tools like Memberstack. We really wanted to strive to build it all ourselves this year, really to prioritize the user experience as the number one thing that we wanted consistent and branded and flexible and powerful. And Memberstack was a great fit to be able to do that. So we integrated Memberstack on top of the Webflow Conf marketing end of the site, basically, and then used a lot of functionality, especially that comes along with Memberstack 2.0 and things like the DOM package and certain technical code-based approaches that you can really customize the way you use Memberstack and read and write data back and forth for, all kinds of things, like certain ways that people can interact and register, as well as storing information, notifying people, verifying things along the way. So it was incredibly powerful as this fundamental base set of tooling that we could modify and really react to pretty often changing requirements that came along the way of building the Webflow Conf site, and also be flexible enough to work for the complexities of 4 different locations. So we had a lot of different plan types, both waitlisted and confirmed. We also had another use case of people that were kind of pre-vetted or RSVP'd, and Memberstack was so powerful to flex with all of those things along the way. So we knew that based on metrics of previous years of Webflow Conf, that we could have upwards of 30,000 or more people registering for the virtual event, as well as a combination of people that were registering for in-person events. And knowing that we could have that scalability all the way up to even 50,000 or more was huge. And Memberstack came through very well with that. We ended up just shy of 30,000 members. And then it was also great because we could sync via the Memberstack API documentation and functionality and extensibility that exists. We could easily sync all that data back to Airtable using another tool called Whale Sync. And what that allowed us to do is a whole extra gamut of functionality, and more critically was reporting in Airtable. So we could really extend, the core level of how many members and what plans, but really go deep on all the different custom fields we were capturing and organizing and filtering those in Airtable in a way that our whole internal team could access very quickly and easily. And so again, it was critical that Memberstack could so easily integrate with something like Airtable, so we could, really have a lot more flexibility and also access to the data for the internal team. A couple of my favorite things on using Memberstack was that it's mostly no code. Changing settings like redirects and automations, even things that happen automatically. Like if somebody gets this plan, then they get these 2 plans, for example. All of that happens in the Memberstack dashboard pretty seamlessly and quickly. And it's very easy to navigate and kind of understand what's going on. The other side, I would say that was by far my favorite, was with Memberstack 2.0 came a lot of more technical functionality like the DOM package that allowed us to use JavaScript on the front end to essentially CRUD, create, read, data back and forth with the Webflow front end and the Memberstack back end. So we could extend the functionality between that and just custom field creation in Memberstack beyond honestly what I originally had even anticipated when myself and another team member were kind of vetting what tools were out there and the best approach. Really, when it came down to it, we knew this would have the core fundamentals, but once we got into it, there was so much more uncovered. And the whole Memberstack team was so incredible, and even collaborating and supporting any kind of unexpected requests we had along the way, and just giving us also that reassurance of, again, scalability, performance, reliability through the whole lifecycle of the conference. I think what surprised me the most on Memberstack was, again, kind of that the accessibility of doing operations with Memberstack data on the front end using JavaScript via that DOM package, and how performant it really was. Like, we were doing some operations that, on page load, we're gonna go get some data, do some things, a little bit of logic, and then show or hide content or even make some calculations. There was also instances where people would be, making an update to some value that would go back to Memberstack and back. And it was very much more performant than I ever would have expected, simply just out of the scale and sheer amount of data that was being exchanged. It was really, really exciting to just have that confidence and really have like an app-like experience all happening in real time in the browser for our users. And, some of the things that Memberstack came through with was security. Our own team vetting that was happy with that approach. Flexibility was another one. And really just this idea that, I really personally believe that if you pair different tools together that each do a specific thing really, really well, you end up having a lot better outcome than trying to find one tool that does all the things just kind of okay. For me, it was a lot of that idea that, Memberstack really deep focuses on member management, authentication, gating content, and all those things that come with it. And the fact that we could so easily pair it with Webflow, which, arguably does incredible work on the front end and, controlling brand and visual development and interactions and all those things that come along with it. It was really just a great pairing that, that made that outcome. I would absolutely use Memberstack again. The biggest things we learned from Webflow Conf was just some of the ways that operations happen. We were syncing data back and forth between Airtable and Memberstack. I intentionally set it up as just one way. And I think if I could do it differently next year, I might set it up two-way, which you can do with WhaleSync, the other tool that I mentioned. I think another thing that's come up is if in the future we want to add paid tickets as well as we've done in the past. We weren't able to leverage that side of Memberstack this year, but I have full confidence that it would still work very well in that gamut. So I'm eager to give it a try for those kinds of use cases in the future too. I'm just so grateful again for Duncan and Tyler and so much of the Memberstack team, made themselves available to support things along the way that came up. And just like the dedication that Memberstack has consistently had in the no-code and Webflow community, it's something that's really, really important. And they really deeply listen to their customers. And it's very apparent in this kind of 2.0 iteration, as I was able to dive deeper into it, that there's been so much evolution in the product over these last few years that really rings true to the actual use cases people need on top of Webflow or even other code stacks. So yeah.